Hello everyone, I'm so glad that you are here. I understand you probably have all the skills, experience, education, the right personality, the right background, but somehow you're not getting through that job interview. Now, going through the job interview is just like any skills, and it is my responsibility to teach you this skill in this course. I will guide you through the most important tips and all the basic questions that a hiring manager asks you in a very simple language. My name is Imran Afzal, and I have been helping my students land the job of their dreams since 2010. I could help you get the job of your dream as well. So what are you waiting for? Let's go ahead and enroll and ace that job interview. Hello, beautiful people. I have a small request. I want you to please spend a couple of minutes with me to go over this course syllabus. And then I want you to decide whether this is the right course for you or not. This course I have divided into 10 different sections. Section 1, I wanted to cover like an introduction, sell your skills, how you could support your resume, interview format, what you should bring to your interview, and the importance of practicing. Section 2 will cover the basic and common interview questions, such as tell me about yourself, why do you want this job, why are you leaving your job, why should I hire you, or where do you see yourself in 5 years, your weaknesses, your strengths, and your greatest accomplishment. Moving on to section 3, we'll cover most important interview tips such as score success in the first 5 minutes, talk about numbers, telling the story, and keeping that beautiful smile of yours. Be precise, don't derail yourself into a different topic. Understand the job requirement. Know the name of the people that you're going to be meeting with. Do not make an answer if you don't know. Understand the question and assess yourself throughout the interview so you know you stay on track and you're keeping the attention of your hiring manager or the hiring panel. Moving on to section 4, behavioral question like what is your greatest failure and what did you learn from it? Describe a time when you were unable to complete your work. Tell me about a successful presentation you gave, or tell me about the toughest decision you have had to make. I skipped through a couple of questions, but I trying to make you understand the type of question that we're going to cover. And in behavioral question, we're going to learn a method of STAR, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. Moving on to section 5, which are situational questions. Situational questions are like, what would you do if your work is criticized? How would you handle a dissatisfied customer? Your manager assigned you a project with tight deadline. How would you handle it? What would you do in the first 90 days if you were hired? How would you respond to a stressful situation? So these are the type of questions are the situational questions. So I am covering every one of them and giving you techniques how you should answer these questions. Moving on to some of the technical questions, such as what was the last project you led? How do you keep up with the innovation? How would you market our product? What version of whatever the application that you're running? Now coming down to section 7, like compensation related question, and a couple of them are what are your salary expectation and bonus related questions. Moving on to section 8, which is your turn to get into the interview question, and that is you need to ask question. You have to leave on a high note. High note is very, very important. And you will learn about the high note once we get to section 8. And I tell you, 80% of the time it works and people will remember you if you leave on a high note. Then saying goodbye. What are the things that you have to leave with them? The goodbye, how good it has to be. Then moving on to section 9 after the interview. Follow up after the interview, update your skills and your resume and learn from your mistake. Moving on to the last section, and that is about do's and don'ts. I want you to remember some of the things you should do, you should avoid, and to never give up. So that's what my syllabus is about, and now you decide whether this course will work perfectly for you or not. And I'll tell you one thing, you will definitely be able to ace your interview once you go through this course. So go ahead and enroll. Hello everyone. Going to the interview, it's like selling your skills. Think of it this way. You walk into a car dealership and the car salesman will try everything to sell you the car. That person will tell you how much horsepower the car has, the leather seats, the interior, the speed, how fast it goes, how fast it stops, all the safety features, right? All the things, the things that entice you to buy the car. You have to sell your skills in the exact same way. So before you start selling your skills, you need to know what exactly the skills that you have to sell. You don't want to sell something that the person is not looking for, right? So maybe if you are going for a job, for an HR job, right? And they are looking for someone who could interview people. And you are trying to sell something else, they're not going to buy it. So sell something that they're looking for. So how do you know what to sell? Well, there are a few resources you could find out. One resource is that you go through the job description. You probably have the job description way ahead of your job interview time. So go through the job description line by line and find out exactly what they are looking for. Then I want you to talk to the headhunter or a recruiter or even the hiring manager or HR person and get more information about the job. What are the things that the hiring manager is looking for? What are the likes? What are the dislikes about the job? Also, do some company research. Maybe find out some of the information about the people who actually worked for that company before, or maybe for that specific department. Put down your list of things that you're going to be selling for. And then when the interview comes, become like a car salesman. I want you to sell your expertise one by one. Make sure every time they go through the interview, you have the opportunity, this way or the other way, to add the skills that they're looking for so you could sell it. So remember, this is very important. Before you go for an interview, you have to think to yourself as a car salesman that you have to sell your skills as like a car. And I'm sure if you have that thinking in your mind, there won't be any problem when you go through your job interview. Good luck. Support your resume. Now, before you go for an interview, I really want you to sit down, have your resume in front of you, and go through every single thing that you have written in your resume. I want you to understand every line. So go line by line and read it out loud if you have to. And make sure that everything that you have written is something that you do understand, you do remember that, or it's not just something you just copy paste from some other resume and you just put it in there. No. I could tell you that 70 to 80% of the hiring manager, they are going to ask you questions from your resume. So your resume is something that will tell them everything about you. It's your profile, it's your description. Before you even meet them, your resume is something that gets shortlisted and they'll say, oh, you know what, this guy or this gal looks very impressive. I would like to set up an interview with that person. They go through your resume and then they'll start asking you questions from the resume. So you are the author. You are the person who actually have written that resume. So please, my advice to you before you go for any job interview, you need to know everything that you have written in your resume. So that is something that I would say, support your resume. This piece of paper, you need to know what you have written. If they ask you anything from the resume and you wouldn't be able to support, it's going to look so bad and most likely not going to get that job. They'll find out right away that you're the person who actually did copy and paste from somewhere. So that was my today's advice. Please heed to it and hopefully you'll get the job that you're looking for. If you have any questions, let me know. The usual interview format is pretty much the same. It doesn't matter where you are, which country you're living in. Most of the interview format are the same. So let's start from the beginning. The way it's going to work is as soon as you go on site or as soon as you pick up the phone, you introduce yourself. If there are more people in the panel, everybody will introduce themselves. Then the hiring manager will actually start telling you about the company. Hey, Imran, thank you so much for coming in. And we are here at ABC Company. We're doing this and this, and we've been in business for maybe 20 years. We have increased our work, our production, and so has increased so much. So we're looking for someone who could come in and actually who's really good in, for example, documentation, who's really good at helping other person, who's really good at this software. So it's pretty much he will go over or she will go over on the job description that you probably already have been given previously. So very quickly summary, that hiring manager will go over it, and that's how the typical interview always starts. Now the third thing that the person is going to cover or hiring manager will cover is the actual format. Yes, they will. I would say all good hiring manager should give you a format. They'll tell you, hey, this is how the format looks like. We're going to ask you some question back and forth, some technical, some behavioral question, and at the end we're going to give you the opportunity to ask question. Fair enough? Is that good? Yes. Then the interview starts. The very first thing and most favorite question always a hiring manager starts with is tell me about yourself, or tell me your background, or tell me how have you been working all these years, and tell me your past experiences. All whatever question that is being asked about that is basically what they're asking you is tell me about your experiences and how do you fit in this role. So you talk about yourself. So embrace this question. Take pride in this. And by the way, I have covered the specific tell me about yourself question in another video. So this question should not be more than 5 minutes. Answer it. Once that is done, then the technical interview starts. So you're probably thinking, hey, I'm not a technical person, meaning I'm not in IT or anything. It's not about that. If you're in IT, then they're probably going to ask you more pure technical related question. But regardless if you're in IT or not, there are technical questions. I'll give you a few examples of the technical questions. Like if you're using like any tools or software or any application that you're using, if you're in accounting, maybe you're using some kind of software, right, to actually manage the books. So they probably ask you, hey, what's the software that you're using, or what's the version? Another would be like, what is the latest book that you have read on law and order if you're going for, like, let's say law firm? Or same thing, if what do you think of, or how do you stay up to date with healthcare environment? See? Also tell me how the internet works. It's very simple, basic question. Sometimes people do ask those people who are not even IT related. Then start scenario-based question. That's same question and answer, but I have broken down into 3 different categories: technical, scenario, and behavioral. So second type of question, scenario or situational based question. Some of the examples are, what would you do if a customer said XYZ? How would you market our ABC product? Tell me about a time you had to make a quick decision. Or another one, tell me about a time when you had to act in a leadership capacity. See, these are scenario-based questions. Then moving on to behavioral questions. Some of the examples are, what are your weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why are you leaving this job where you are right now? What is one good thing that you like about this job which you have applied for? What is your biggest achievement in life? How did you handle difficult situations? See, these are all behavioral questions. They want to know how do you handle these type of questions. So some of these questions I have covered in my other videos as well. So please go ahead if you wanted to pick any specific question you wanted to learn how you should answer. Please check out my other videos. Now, after these questions, back and forth, answer, the hiring manager comes to the end. The conclusion is, all right, do you have any questions for us, Imran? Now, that's the time you should definitely ask questions. Now, please make sure asking questions that should be related to the job itself. For example, I could give you a quick example. Hey, let's say if I start tomorrow, how would you describe my day will look like? Something like that. So ask question, make sure you do at least 2 or 3. And then, of course, if you have to add anything to the end as a high note, hey, you know what? I think I'm a great fit for it because the person you're looking for, I'm the one, and I'll get the job done. Add that. And that's where the whole job interview ends. Again, to summarize really quickly, the hiring manager will go over company background, job description, and interview format. Then they ask you, tell me about yourself. Then they ask you technical questions, scenario-based questions, situational, and behavioral questions. At the end, they will ask you to ask them questions. And that's where the whole interview concludes. Hello again. Let's talk about the things that you should bring to your job interview. Now, maybe your job interview is on the phone or on site. So some of the things that I'm going to cover might apply to the on-site, and some of the things will still apply on the phone interview. So very first and most important thing is that you need to bring your resume. Yes, make a hard copy of your resume, and you should have at least, I would say, 4 to 5 copies, because you never know, maybe you're going to be meeting one person or maybe 5 people or more. So at least you should have enough copies to give it to them to go through the interview. Also, please bring a pen and a notepad so you could write down the notes, or maybe while the interviewer or hiring manager goes through the job description, that's the opportunity, that's the time to write down what that person is looking for. Now, a lot of people do bring a tablet, iPad, or a laptop to write those. I would advise against that, because the way you could write it down in your own handwriting, you will remember it, why you wrote it, and what reference that you have to give it to during the job interview. Also, it's not a really good practice or a good idea that you have like a laptop open while people asking you a question. So definitely a no for a laptop. Now also, please make sure you bring all those things together in a backpack. A lot of people just carry around a resume on their hand, and they actually walk with that. Maybe you might have a folder that you could put it in. Great. If not, please don't carry it loosely in your hand. Put it in your backpack or briefcase. Also, if you're a kind of person who will go through a lot of talking, and if you're a person who's not into too much talking, and while you talk, your throat gets dry. If you're that type of person, I know everyone has a different way of talking, everyone has a different personality. So if you're a person who get thirsty or might cough, if you think during your interview or you're talking, please do bring a water bottle. You could ask for a water during the interview, but I wouldn't advise that you ask a hiring manager, hey, can you give me a glass of water? I mean, there is nothing wrong with that, but now you're going through a professional background experience of yourself, and there's a professional interview being conducted, and going through, hey, get me a glass of water, it doesn't really look professional. So bring a bottle of water with you. Also, some people might sweat. Sometimes they're nervous. So don't forget a napkin or tissue paper. And the last thing, and the most important thing, is please do not forget to bring your positive attitude. What that really means is when you actually walk into the office for that job, or when you pick up the phone for that job, you got to have this feeling in you that you will get the job. That's the positive interview. When you have the positive attitude in you, that will bring a confidence in you, and it will be a lot easier for you to answer the questions that they have for you. Good luck. Practice, practice, practice. You have heard of this mantra so many times from so many people, that anything that you want to do, you gotta practice for it. So no matter if you're going for a speech, you're going for a debate, you're going for a rehearsal, you're going for an acting, or any kind of things that you're doing, you have to practice before you actually deliver it. Just the same way, interview works. You have to practice the interview as well. Don't be a superhero and says, you know what, I'm just going to go into the job interview site and I'm going to start saying whatever that comes to my mind. That's not really a good idea. It's always good that you practice some of the common or basic questions before you go for a job interview. Now, a few things that I do want to share with you are what are the different methods or techniques that you could use to practice. Well, number one is that you should talk to a friend of yours or someone in your family to take your mock interview. So you could have some of the questions written down on a piece of paper and have them sit with you and go through the practice of taking the interview. You could just tell them, go through one question at a time and judge me or review my responses the way I would respond. They would know where you have to improve. Another thing which is I have found very useful for many of my students, and that is recording your interview. So when you're going for the job interview, you could record your responses before and listen to those recordings. Same way if you're doing a mock interview with your friends or family member, I want you to record them. All it takes is to take out your phone and start recording. Nowadays it's so easy. You don't have to buy an expensive camera to do recording. Just pull out that phone and start recording. And when you're going to watch yourself on the phone being recorded, you're going to find a lot of mistakes that you could correct. And you would avoid those mistakes. And I bet you it would work. So please do take my advice and practice your job interview questions before you go for a job. Hello again. Let's talk about the most favorite question that every hiring manager would love to ask, and that is, tell me about yourself. Now, a lot of people take this question and get intimidated. They get scared. They get nervous. Now, I don't want you to do that. I want you to take this question as an opportunity to explain what you know, what the skills you have. I want you to hold your shoulders high and look him in the eye and answer that question with full confidence. Because let me tell you this is the only opportunity you're going to get in the entire interview process where you could tell the person about everything about yourself, where you could make yourself shine. That's a moment for you to feel proud. So take that as an opportunity. Let me put it in a way that it will be a lot easier for you to understand how you should answer this question. I have broken down this in 5 parts, or you could say 5 categories or 5 pieces. The first category is quick introduction. So let me go through all of them real quick first about these 5 pieces. One is quick introduction, second is experience, third one is education, fourth one is personal interest, and the fifth one is how you fit in this role. So coming back to the first one, quick introduction. In this introduction, you have to talk about what you really are. Let's say if you're an engineer, you're an accountant, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you have to say that I'm a lawyer. I'm practicing for so many years. I'm a system administrator and I've been working as a system administrator capacity for these many years. So also say about the number of years. Then you have to say a quick summary about your skills. You know these things, you have worked in these things, and you have been working again for that many years in these skills. So if that job is more specifically for system, let's say office engineer, office administrator, very simple job, right? So you've been working as an office admin for so many years, but here are the skills that you have under your belt. Then go to the next category, that is about the actual experience. Always start with your existing job. Talk about your company. If you're working for company ABC, talk a little bit about what your company does, how many employees they have. Are you really proud of the company? You should actually say that you feel really great working for that company. Then you have to talk about your day-to-day job there. What do you really do? Don't be tedious or boring about your day-to-day job. Talk about some exciting things that you do. Then while you go through your every experience, please make sure you mention all your accomplishments. Anything you have done for company A, anything you have done for company B. Talk about your quantifiable facts, like anything that you could put in a number or quantify. Hey, I've worked for 5 years and I tell you I increased the productivity 50%. I worked so hard, I improved the process that I have reduced the cost by 25%. I've been working in this company with 5,000 people and I support 2,000 of those employees. See all those numbers. Talk about those numbers. If you have to put those numbers in a story, talk about the story. Tell anything that can be explained in a story. I'm sure everyone has some kind of story at your job. We all go through issues. We all go through disasters, whether it's office related or outside. There are hurricanes. There are attacks or wars or so many things, or the blackouts that you go through. And I'm sure during those times you probably work very hard. Talk about those. Then go back to your prior experience. Go back to the prior experience. Go this way. Then we go into the category about education. Talk about your accomplishment when you were in school. What do you do? You are bachelor's, you are master's, you are PhD, what kind of degree you have, and whether you have a high GPA, cum laude, mega laude, any kind of achievement or accomplishment or any rewards you have. Talk about your certifications. Then talk about your personal interest. Now, a lot of people say, hey, don't talk about anything of your personal or anything about your hobbies. I would say you should, because that's the interviewer can relate something with you. So I always say, you know what? I love watching Seinfeld. I love watching sports, more specifically soccer. I like to read articles that has something to do with the technology. I like to read some of the books. See, when you talk about these really quickly, don't go more than 10 seconds or 20 seconds. When you talk about that, the interviewer might relate something with you. Hey, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned it. I love that show too. Hey, what about that show? See, it becomes some personal interest in that. Then the last thing is, how do you fit in that role? Once you explain everything about yourself, last thing is, you know the job description. Now this is the time to tell your hiring manager, hey, you know what? I know you were looking for this person, and based on what I have just explained you, all the things that I have went through, I tell you, I am the right fit for this job. I could do everything that you have listed in your job description. And that's how you end, by saying that, tell me about yourself. See, I put it in a so easier way. All you have to know is remember these different pieces, 5 categories when you have to answer this question. Number 1, quick introduction. 2nd, experience. 3rd, education. 4th, personal interest. And 5th, how do you fit in this role? I hope this lecture will really help you. If you have a question, let me know. Hello again. Let's talk about another common question that a lot of hiring managers would love to ask. And that is, why do you need this job? They really wanted to know your answer, and based on your answer, they could assess whether you're a right fit or not. So be very careful when answering this question. So when I say be very careful, I mean there are a few things that you should avoid. Number 1 is, do not say anything about your salary. Maybe you're getting a lot more money in this new job. Great, but keep it to yourself. Also about commute. If the new job that you're going for interview is saving you another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it's better not to mention that. Yes, if it's saving you 2 hours, okay, that could be a significant difference between your commute, so you could mention that. Another thing is number of hours. So if you're working in the old job 12 hours and now this job is going to give you 8 hours, try not to mention that because they're going to ask you more questions about it. Also, if you are getting a newer title, So let's say right now you're a system admin or an HR administrator. Now you're getting a job of a manager or director. Great, that's amazing thing for you, but that shouldn't be the only reason that you want this job. So try to avoid that. It's also another thing is very basic one is, hey, I got no job, that's why I'm looking for this job, or that's why I want that job. Okay, I know a lot of people who do not have a job or going through this tough time. For them, getting another job is everything. But you really don't want to mention this, hey, I don't have a job, so that's why please give me a job. No, you should actually ask yourself, if you're getting this job, what are the good things that you could put together? So now for that, what are the good things that you could put together? You have to go through a certain sequence. One is align your skills and experience with the job description or the job requirement. Go through them. See if you're really a perfect fit for it. So you could say, I do see this job a perfect fit for me because of such and such reason, and that is this, and that's all in the job description. Also, for those my college graduates or fresh entry-level people, for you could say that, you know what, I have actually gone through in my major or in my education, I have covered all these topics. We've gone through this thesis, we've gone through this practical examples in my school, and I think that the person you're looking for perfectly fits this job role, and that's why I'm looking for the job. Another is, please do company research as well. Maybe the company does amazing. So let's say if you're going for Google, you don't really have to search. I know everybody wants to work for Google or Amazon or big companies like that, right? But every company has something to offer, I'm sure. Not all the companies are out there going to make you work like a slave. Every company has good things to offer. So find out what are those good things that they offer. And I'm sure you could find those a lot of things on company's website or maybe different website about the company. Find that out. Maybe that will entice you to get that job. Another thing is being part of the team. So maybe you're going to be working with a team that consists of 5 or 10 people, and then you do see the great engineers or architects or management people, and working with them will give you the opportunity to learn more. Mention that. That's why I want the job, because you have the group of people who are so talented, and I would love to work with them, right? Another thing is you do want to see yourself grow. So if you research the company and if you look at the job description and you notice, hey, this is the job I think I would grow in the coming 2-3 years, mention that. You could tell them, hey, I know your company is a small company, and in a small company, there's a lot of opportunity to learn. I could be doing a lot of things. I could wear a lot of hats. I could touch on every single thing. So that's why I want the job. Or if it's a bigger company with thousands of employees, you could even say that this is an amazing company. You guys have so many processes in place to do certain things. You have already gone through that, and I want to learn that. See, a lot of things that you could mention about why do you need the job. So I hope all these things will really help you. Good luck with that. I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, let's talk about another common question that an interviewer would ask you, and that is, why are you leaving your job? If you have been laid off or you're a contractor and your contract has been ended, then it's perfect that you could say that, hey, I've been laid off. I was part of the layoff people who got laid off from my company, and that's why I'm looking for a job, or that's why I'm leaving this job. Also, my contract has ended. My contract was for 6 months or for 2 years. Now it's coming to an end, and that is why I'm leaving my current job. Again, there is nothing wrong with that. You could say that. That's perfectly all right. Now, for those people who are actually don't like their boss, I'm sure a lot of people don't like their boss, then how do you handle a situation like that? And you have to be honest, right? So how do you handle it? So I could give you a few tips how you could handle it. Number one is, you could say that the amount of work that I do for this company and for my boss is undervalued. I believe I'm not getting the motivation, I'm not getting the recognition for the amount of work that I have done so much. Also, you believe that your management had a different direction. So I'm interested in working in a more collaborated way or more collaborated environment. And I'm a kind of guy, I could go to my boss and I could say, hey boss, listen, let's do things this way. I could do it once, I could do it twice. But if I get in a kind of like a rejection all the time when I go, I'm not the kind of guy who will argue about it. Also, I have a desire to learn, but with my current management, it seems impossible. So there is no training resources. I wanted to learn, I wanted to improve my skills, but there are no training budget, no training resources from my boss, or nobody, or the leadership doesn't approve it. If you're working too much or your boss is making you work too much and you don't like it, so you could simply say that, hey, I have a desire, I'm looking for a job that where I could have my life and work balance. And I do see that sometimes I've been working like so many hours all day that I don't even find time to spend time with my family. So I think this is the right time and right moment that I should move on. That's how you could put it on if you have a problem with